I want to talk about file permissions. We're going to look at it from the standalone computer point of view. So I'm going to look at Windows 7 um, and I'm going to look at Linux and the Mac for giving out file permissions. What I mean by file permissions is who can view it. Now, on a network, if you are on the school computer network, then you want your files, when you save your work, you can read them, but you don't want anybody else to read them. If you share those files, however, they can read them. This is not necessarily the case on a Mac and so forth. So let's take a look first of all at Windows 7 and the File Manager. So let's see if we can find a file that we can look at. There we go, I've got one called Maze. Now, if I quickly compare that with the Mac version, when we had a file or a folder, we had this set of file permissions. D meaning a folder, while in Windows the little yellow item means a folder, and then we had read, write or execute for three different types. So for anybody, for just the owner of the file, and for a group of people, a group of friends, such as the computer science group. And we have a similar way of setting file permissions in here. So if we take a look at, let's say, web stuff, let's see if I can get this working. There we go. If I right click onto web stuff and choose properties, what I get is these two items here. For a start off, the attributes, whether the file is read-only. So if you take the tick out of the box, that means anybody can write into it. If you choose hidden, remember I said there's a lot of hidden files that you don't see. This is the way to hide a file. So if you click hidden, that folder is never going to be seen. If we click on advanced, we can set some advanced items, whether it's enabled to be archived, whether we can compress, which we'll deal with later, whether we can encrypt, which again we'll deal with later. But there's not a great deal to say who can read or write the files, whether it's the owner, yourself, whether it's the group, the computer science, or whether it's anybody in the world. We can choose sharing, and we can share the entire folder, and we can say who we want to share it with. Now, if I was on a network, I would have quite a lot of people that I could just choose, or I could click on a drop down box and say, okay, I want Anne, when she logs onto the computer, if I add her, she can now read the file, but she can't change it. If I use the drop down box, she can read or write. Now this is a folder, so really there's no execute, no ability to run, and obviously this person here, me, is the owner, and I can share that, and then she would have access to all the things. Alternatively, I've got security, which I can either choose a group. So if it's a computer science group, I can set those up and list them into here, and I can change the permissions for a particular group by allowing them to have full control, that is read, write or execute. I can have them just to be able to modify a file, or I can actually say no, you can't do that at all. Or I can have them be able to read it and run it but not change it. I can have whether they can list what's in a folder, whether they can just read it, whether they can write, or give them some special permissions. So in Windows, and this is called the NTFS file system, I can change the permissions in Windows. I could also do it on the command line, but it's a little awkward. With Mac and Linux, I have to create a file. Let's go back to this. Where's the Mac or Linux version? Here we go. Let's log back into Linux. If I wanted to sort of create a file in Linux, I could just type cat for concatenate. Well, not there. Oh, it stopped working. One of the two. There we go. Cat, and then I can say send everything to my file.txt. So now it's waiting for me to type. This is a line of text. Enter, and when I press Ctrl D, it closes the file, and I should, if I type ls-al, be able to see my new file here, my file. It's not a folder, and nobody's got the ability to execute it. I'm the owner, I can read and write it, my group can read and write it, but the world can't. Now, I can change these permissions using Octal base 7. Now, if you can remember binary, 111 is 7 in binary, and by giving it a binary number, I would have 3 of them. So 111, 111 would set these permissions here on the file. So we're in binary or octal actually, so we can use any number from 0 to 7 to change the values. So let's see that happen. Change mod or modify, so chmod we normally call it, my file.txt, and I'm going to give it, I'm going to give it an octal number, 777. Okay, so I need some help with this. I'll probably put it in the wrong place. Okay, so what I needed to do was chmod 777 my file.txt. There we go. Now when I list my file, we can find it. Here it is. Notice that what I set it was read, write, execute. I changed the permissions for each and every one of them. Remember I said that was in octal. Let's say I just wanted to allow them to execute it but not read and write. Okay, so let's think about this. So in binary it would be 001. Okay, because I don't want them to read and write, but I want them to execute, and the first set of 3 digits is for the first one there. Then if I just did that throughout, I would be able to just give them execute permissions and nothing else. So let's try that one. Chmod silly me. Chmod 111 my file.txt, and when I list it again, notice in my file.txt I've only got the execute permissions set. So it's a little bit different to Windows. Windows, if you're using the graphic user interface, is straightforward. You just select the permissions from a box. However, Windows is getting better. It did not used to have these permissions available. And also you can change the permissions on the command line, but not just at the moment. We'll have a look at that later.